Welcome back to the Wayfaring Warbler, a YouTube channel about birding in Massachusetts, New England, and beyond. Hello, welcome to another episode. Today we are on a big adventure up north in New England. We are heading to the White Mountains area of New Hampshire in search of northern winter visitors, eruptive finches, and anything else we might see that is more localized to this part of New England compared to southern New England, which includes Massachusetts. I am going to be heading to some spots for the very first time that I plan to visit more this year because I've learned about them in the last few months. So one of my big stops is I plan to go snowshoeing at Pondicherry National Wildlife Refuge. I've been watching the reports there for the last couple of, I guess more than a couple of weeks, but I've been really looking at the reports for there for the last couple of weeks pretty seriously, and I have a few other stops planned in New Hampshire. So come along with me for the adventure, and I think it is going to be an adventure. My first stop was the airport marsh in Whitefield, New Hampshire, next to the Mount Washington Regional Airport. On the same road as the airport, I saw a pileated woodpecker on the side of the road. My first of the year that I've seen, don't have yet for Essex County. Continuing down the road, once I reached the airport marsh, it was quite quiet, but I suddenly discovered my most exciting discovery possibly of the weekend, these pine grosbeaks. These are eruptive finches and are less common than the evening grosbeak. According to Sibley, they nest in spruce-fir forests, often are seen at edges of clearings and deciduous shrubs, check. In winter are attracted to fruit trees. They're usually in small flocks, check, check. And they feed on seeds and fruit. I just loved sitting there and watching these. They were so pretty. There was possibly another flock nearby. I really only caught a glimpse of ones that kind of looked like these females, immature males. They could have been something else, but I didn't get a really clear look at them. I didn't see too much else nearby, even though I looked. So I next headed to Pondicherry National Wildlife Refuge. I had read that the Mud Pond National Recreation Trail entrance, also known as the Mud Pond Trail, was the only parking lot cleared. But this is in fact not true, but it is the biggest and it was probably the best entrance. Come along with me as we go snowshoeing for the first time. I took the entrance of the Mud Pond Trail, but instead of continuing on my way, I went to the Moose Way Trail, which is only open in winter. It is 1.4 miles and heads to the Little Cherry Pond Trail. There were some existing cross-country ski tracks, which made walking a little bit easier, but the snowshoes were definitely a huge help. I saw some chickadees on the side of the trail once in a while. I also heard many red-breasted nuthatches, and I saw a few as well. The Friends of Pondicherry National Wildlife Refuge describe the refuge as being located in the northern White Mountain region of New Hampshire and the towns of Jefferson, Whitefield, and Carroll. It covers nearly 6,500 acres of wetlands and forests, including 3 ponds. It has a wide variety of wildlife, especially birds. It is a division of the Silvio O. Conte National Fish and Wildlife Refuge and is a managed conservation partnership by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, New Hampshire Audubon, the New Hampshire Fish and Game Department, and the New Hampshire Bureau of Trails. It was designated a National Natural Landmark in 1972 by the National Park Service. The first body of water I came upon was the Little Cherry Pond, a 25-acre water body surrounded by lowland spruce-fir forest. Natural features in the warmer months include bog margins, floating vegetation mats, and shaded forest corridors that support a range of wildlife. I did see a couple of ruffed grouse. Well, I barely saw them because I flushed them as I was rounding the corner. I then backtracked on the Little Cherry Pond Trail and headed to Cherry Pond. There were apparently some board-covered crossings on wetland areas in this area, and there were a few times I stumbled off the side of them, not realizing they were there underneath all the snow cover. In order to get to Cherry Pond, I had to cross over the Rampart Trail, which is a rail trail, and looks like there could sometimes be snowmobiles here. And the tracks weren't necessarily fresh. I did hear snowmobiles at one point, but they sounded more towards, I believe that's the south, towards the right of me here, but not actively on this trail. I then headed down the Shore Path Trail to Cherry Pond, which is a 100-acre glacial water body that offers expansive views of the Presidential Range, which I could not see this day since it was very overcast and still flurrying. Natural features here also includes lowland spruce-fir forests, bog margins, and open water zones that support a wide range of wildlife. I read somewhere that you can often see moose tracks alongside the trail, and had I wanted to adventure further, I could have headed down to a viewing platform further along the shoreline, but I had enough and I wasn't going to see anything anyway because the pond was very frozen. You can hear just how quiet it was here. Once in a while I heard the loud croaking of a raven, but that's it. Greetings from very cold New Hampshire. We're in the Mount Washington region at Pondicherry National Wildlife Refuge, and I just hiked 1.6 miles, I believe, probably a little more. I snowshoed for the first real time. I had a little practice last night at a Mass Audubon outing. But yeah, I just snowshoed a really long way, and now I'm taking a break at my destination, and before I have to walk the entire way back to my car. So, snack time, water break, but we are at Little Cherry Pond, I believe. I think the other one's called Little Cherry Pond. I will put that here below, the real name. And I haven't seen too much, unfortunately. Saw some red-breasted nuthatches. Been hearing a raven croaking. Haven't seen any mammals. So that's kind of a bummer. But it was fun snowshoeing. If anything, that was a win, and I plan on coming here more throughout the year when it's better weather and easier to walk, and there will probably be more birds. But so far I've had good luck on the sides of roads, so I think after we finish this walk here, we will continue to do more of that, and see what other finches I can find, which is so exciting. I really love seeing those pine grosbeaks. Those are really cool. The bright red was amazing. Anyway, I will check back in soon. On my way back, I was able to capture some bird calls on Merlin that I was able to share here. The latter one is a red-breasted nuthatch, and the other is a pine grosbeak. I was able to sneak some tough shots of a hairy woodpecker. It was quite obvious as a hairy woodpecker, not only because of how it sounded, but also the size is much larger than a downy, which looks pretty much identical to it otherwise. At this point, I was exhausted, but it was so beautiful out. I mean, look at this scene. Highly recommend a walk here during the winter. I also wanted to share this video I got of some deer on a frozen pond elsewhere in New Hampshire. It was the biggest group I think I've ever seen. So, we're back for day 2 of this long weekend, and I am once again heading up to New Hampshire to the White Mountains because yesterday was so addicting, clearly. But today I'm a lot more refined in what I plan to explore. So on Saturday, I pretty much had instant success finding pine grosbeaks, and I was hoping to find tons more and get lots more video and photos since I wasn't going to spend time snowshoeing today. I did eventually find evening grosbeaks after driving up and down side roads for quite a long time. I did recently see these in Groton, Massachusetts, but I was still happy to spend a long time watching them in these tall bushes that were blocking the view of this house, which I assume had bird feeders behind it because I could hear them very excited behind these tall trees/bushes. So I felt comfortable sitting outside for quite a while with my long lens camera because I couldn't actually see the house behind these bushes. And the grosbeaks were resting periodically in the branches along the road. So I was getting on and off great views of the different birds. And being in my nice, well, it wasn't a warm car because I keep my heat off when I am birding, so there's not a lot of steam or fog or whatever. But it was better than getting frostbite the other time I saw them. I also saw more hairy woodpeckers. There was a few different birds here, so yeah, definitely a bird feeder nearby. However, I eventually did get one of my target birds that I was really hoping to see when I was up there, and one I had briefly seen the day before. And these trees, high up, but also there was one next to the road, that's how I initially saw them, were ruffed grouse. I have been trying to figure out how I was going to see these birds sometime this year, and I guess I wasn't really sure. I didn't really expect entirely to see them like this winter, and I thought maybe it would be over the summer. But yes, these are really common birds in some areas of the country, but in Massachusetts, but especially eastern Massachusetts, they're just not seen anymore. They may be more common in the Berkshires, in the more forested areas, but in past Mass Audubon surveys they've done the last couple decades, they're just really not around anymore. I heard there used to be some breeding at Ipswich River Mass Audubon Wildlife Sanctuary, but I don't think, no one has said that they are still doing that. So seeing a ruffed grouse was pretty special, and I got amazing photos. I'm gonna nerd out over how excited I am to see these birds. I guess they make a lawnmower sound when they take off flying, like if you startle them, but I didn't hear that either time I saw them this weekend. I mean, I think I'm pretty positive I saw them on Saturday. Stay tuned for part 2 because there's a lot more to come. If you enjoyed wandering with me today, give this video a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to keep following where the birds lead next. Thanks for watching. Until next time.